بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن والاه. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وسلم وتسليما كثيرا. أما بعد، ما شاء الله قوة إلا بالله، ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. اللهم علمتنا ما ينفعنا وينفعنا بما علمتنا، وزدنا علما وعملا يقربنا إليك يا رب العالمين. اللهم نسألك اللهم نسألك آتنا أنفسنا تقواها وزكاها، أنت خير من زكاها، أنت وليها ومولاها يا رب العالمين. اللهم أسألك يسدد أخطاءنا ويصلح أمورنا، ولا تكلنا إلى أنفسنا طرفة عين. أما بعد. This is the continuation of our class, the summer Dora, summer seminar, daily class schedule for the summer, which will end bi'ithnillah tabarak wa ta'ala on the 21st of September. This class is the Masaanaf of Imam Ibn Abi Shaybah. The Masaanaf of Imam Ibn Abi Shaybah, meaning the narrations that the Imam collected with regards to the companions and the Tabe'een, their statements concerning the Deen of Al-Islam. And we said Imam Ibn Abi Shaybah huwa wahid min shuyukh Kitab Nikah. He's one of the imams and teachers and sheikh of all of those who were considered the 6 imams of the Sunnah, such as Imam Bukhari, Imam Muslim, Imam Abi Dawood, Imam Tirmidhi, Imam Nasa'i, Ibn Majah, and others. So, inshallah, tabarak wa ta'ala, we want to pick up where we left off. We're in the Kitab Nikah, the section where he's talking about marriage. Kitab Nikah, and the chapter that we've been in since we started Bab at-Taweed, the act of getting married. وَمَنْ يَأْمُرُ بِهِ, and who are those that the command is for. وَمَا يُحَثُّ إِلَيْهَا, and what are the things that would encourage those people to follow through with the command. The last 3 hadith we took, we'll go back and read those hadith and we'll continue forward. Nas'Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tawfiq. قال الإمام ابن أبي شيبة رحمه الله تعالى حدثنا ابن أبي بشر. Imam Ibn Abi Shaybah قال حدثنا محمد ibn Abi Bishr. He narrates from his Sheikh Muhammad ibn Abi Bishr عن أبي رجاء عن عثمان ibn Khalid, from Uthman ibn Khalid, عن الزهري عن شداد ibn Aus, Shaddad ibn Aus من صحابة رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. قال وكان ماذا ذهب بصره. while he was losing his vision, Shaddad ibn Aus, he said, Zawajuni, let me get married, marry me. فَإِنَّ رَسُولَ اللَّهِ صَلَى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ, because the Messenger of Allah, Awsani, he told me, he advised me, he admonished me, La alqallaha azaban, don't meet Allah, don't die, go into Allah and you're single. So this is the narration of Shaddad ibn Aus with the advice of the Nabi Sallallahu, for him not to die, meeting Allah single, which means the opposite. Make sure that you get married, which is according to the chapter and the book of marriage, the obligation of getting married and those who it's for and what will invigorate you, incite you to do it. قال حدثنا محمد بن بشر Imam Ibn Abi Shayba narrates from his next sheikh and then hadith and Abi Rajah عن حكم ابن زيد عن حسن هنا حسن البصري قال معاذ بن جبل في مرضه الذي مات فيه. So Mu'adh Hasan al-Basri, the great Tabi, the Imam, is narrating from Mu'adh ibn Jabal, Hasan al-Basri. So some people think Hasan al-Basri, he's a companion, like laysa min al-Sahaba. He's not from the Sahaba. ولو ربى في حجرة أو بيت سلمة زوج النبي ليس من أصحابه صلى الله عليه وسلم. Although Hasan al-Basri grew up in the house of Salama, she raised him, and he drank, wallah mustan, from her breast milk. Some have said he's not a companion. Why is he not a companion? Because he lived in Salama's house after the death of the Prophet. He never met the Prophet ﷺ, so he's tapping Imam Hasan al-Basri. He described what Mu'adh ibn Jabal, on his deathbed, when he was sick, dying, what he said, Mu'adh ibn Jabal, the one that the Prophet ﷺ sent to Yemen as a scholar, as a faqih, the one that the Prophet ﷺ had as imam, the outskirts of Medina, the far end of Medina. Mu'adh, the one that the Prophet emphasized four different ways and swore, told Mu'adh he loves him and gave him advice about the right of Allah, worshiping Allah, and not making shirk. The same Mu'adh that Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala's Prophet told him, never leave the prayer, never make the 5 daily prayer except you say, Allahumma a'anni, O Allah, help me, ala dhikrika, to remember you, wa shukrika, to be obedient to you out of gratefulness, wa husni ibadati, and to perfect the worship to you, O Allah. This is the same Mu'adh ibn Jabal on his deathbed, which Hasan al-Basri is narrating what he said. He said, Zawajuni, he said, marry me, فَإِنِّي أَكْرَهُ أَنْ أَلْقَ اللَّهَ عَذَابًا. I would detest to meet Allah without being married. I would hate to meet Allah single. So you have two narrations that we just took last time. We're going back over the narration of Shaddad ibn Aus, who was going blind, and he didn't worry about how his life is going to change in this narration. He didn't worry about how he was going to be restricted and how would he get around after losing the sight. He didn't worry about when the sight leaves totally, what his fate may be. He was worried about one thing, not meeting Allah, not dying, and being single. Here's the hadith, the narration, I should say, the author, narration of Mu'adh ibn Jabal, the same thing on his deathbed. He's not worrying about how much inheritance he leaves or doesn't have for his family. He's not worrying about he's going to miss his wife and children. He's not worrying about yani, what is going to be like when he dies regarding his good and bad deeds in this narration. He's worrying about one thing in this narration, meeting Allah and being single. And this means the beginning of the dars. We mentioned the chapter, the bab. Bab here means the discussion. Kitab means the whole subject matter. So Kitab Nikah, the book of marriage. And then the discussion of the marriage, bab tazweej, the act of getting married. وَمَنْ يَأْمُرُ بِهِ, and who does the obligation speak to, and who is obligated to get married. وَمَا يَحَثْ عَلَيْهَا, and what will invigorate and help and motivate people to execute that command of getting married. So here, if we think about the hadith in the beginning of the lesson, almost a month ago, one of the main things in those earlier hadith was ability and some type of means. So here, when you think about Shaddad ibn Aus, his statement, going blind, and the statement of Mu'adh ibn Jabal on his deathbed, them being advised not to meet Allah like that, single, that means they have ability and they have means. So if you have ability and you have means, then the Prophet is saying, don't meet Allah single. Why? Because they understood marriage to be an obligation. Although some scholars say that marriage is mubah. Mubah means you can do it and be rewarded, or you cannot do it and there's no punishment on you. Or mustahab, as some said, that it is encouraged, and if you do it under encouragement, something that's a love act, sought to do, then you'll be rewarded. And if you don't do it, same thing, no punishment. But here, if it's wajib, if it's obligation, then that means you must do it with conditions. And if you have the conditions fulfilled and you refuse, then you are in a state of being sinful. And that's why these narrations point to what they're saying. The Prophet told them not to meet Allah tabarak wa ta'ala except as a person who is married. Now, حدثنا سفيان ibn Anas. Imam Ibn Abi Shaybah quotes from his Shaykh Sufyan ibn Anas said to him, عن إبراهيم ibn Maysara, Ibrahim ibn Maysara, he said, قال لي طاووس. So Ibrahim ibn Maysara is narrating what Taweed said to him. Taweed ibn Kaysan. Taweed ibn Kaysan is from the ulama of the Tabi'een. He's from the scholars of the Tabi'een. He is from the Talmeed of Abdullah ibn Abbas, from the students of Abdullah ibn Abbas. Taweed al-Kaysan in Yemen. He told Ibrahim ibn Maysara and Kahan, get married. He said, or should I tell you? He said, la ukulanna laka ma qala Umar ibn Abi Zawa'id, or what Umar ibn Zawa'id said. He said, ma yamna'aka mina nikah. Nothing will prevent a person from marriage. إلا عجز أو فجور. إلا عجز أو فجور. عجز he refuses, which is a sin. أو فجور, he's into a lot of wickedness. And this again is talking about the person who has the ability physically. He's youthful. He has a desire. He has a shahwa. That's one part of the puzzle. And then you have some means. As the Prophet said, من استطاع منكم والباء من استطاع منكم, whoever has physical ability. He has desires, he has a shahwa, has a desire for a woman. And then al-ba'a, something to help him in that responsibility. Whether there's a little bit or a lot, these are the two conditions that the Prophet mentioned. There's others, such as the Prophet mentioning about the one who Muawiyah came to propose to Fatima bin Fatima bin Qais, and the Prophet said, "Don't marry him." When she told him, he proposed to me, said because he's suluk al-mal. Suluk al-mal means bakhil, stingy. You're not going to get what you need, although he has the ability. So he had the ability, but he blew the issue of marriage because he's stingy. So one of the conditions, the person can't be known to be stingy, because the lady's going to suffer. She's not going to get what she needs. That's another condition. وكذلك, some scholars said, he mentioned about the other person, Abu, I forget the other person's name. He said, Ma rafa asa an atika. That he's not going to keep his stick off your shoulder blade, meaning he beats his wife. So these are conditions. If you know the person is domestically violent, beating his wife, you know the person is stingy, he doesn't spend, although he has the ability. These are other conditions that are not mentioned in this particular narration, but they're in other narrations. Now, so here the Prophet is talking to those who have ability and means, that they should meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala azaban, aziban, single. قال إمام أبي ابن أبي شيبة قال حدثنا سفيان ابن قال حدثنا طيب قال حدثنا عيينة ابن عيينة عن حسان ابن حديد عن طاووس. So this is the same Taweed again, Taweed ibn Kaysan. Now the same Taweed in the next narration, Taweed from Yemen. He said, حدثنا ابن عيينة, سفيان ابن عيينة. نعم, سفيان ابن عيينة and Hussein ibn Hudaydah and Taweed. Taweed said, لا يتم شاب, that the young person will not be complete حتى ماذا يتزوج. So the youthful one is incomplete. لا يتم شاب حتى يتزوج كما في هذا أثر طاووس بن قيسان. So here again, like the Prophet said, some people have said the narration, the wording is not authentic, but the meaning is authentic. The Prophet said the zawaj, nisf ad-din. Naam, az-zawaj nisfu mada ad-din. Some said that nisfu is not authentic because the Prophet said shatr ad-din, shatra din. Shatara also in the Arabic language bima'na juzi, it means a portion, and also it means nisf. So if the Prophet said the zawaj shatr ad-din, then it means nisf ad-din, half of your deen. So this is similar what Taweed ibn Kaysan is saying, لا تتم الشاب حتى يتزوج, that the youthful person will not be complete as a man until he marries. لماذا؟ لأنه أمر من النبي, because it's an obligation from the Prophet. لأنه أغض من البصر, it helps, and it is the best thing to keep you from looking around out of lust. And the Prophet said, وأنه أحسن min al-faraj, and it's the best thing to guard the privates from what is haram. It is that which will make the young person most complete, that is the marriage. حدثنا عباد ibn Awamin. Abu Bakr ibn Abi Shayba quotes from his Shaykh Abbad ibn Awamin. قال حدثنا سفيان ibn Hussein عن أبي حكم ibn Ayyad عن أبي حكم عن أبي حكم ibn Wa'il. Abi Hakam ibn Wa'il. Now, Abi Hakam ibn Sayyara an Abi Wa'il. Abi Hakam ibn Sayyara an Abi ماذا Wa'il. عن ابن مسعود. So هنا أبي وائل عن ابن مسعود. نعم. رضي الله تعالى عنه. Ibn Mas'ud, he says, it's a low lam aish. Subhanallah. This is a deep statement, and this is where we continue from tonight. What you just heard was the previous lesson to tie them together. So Abdullah ibn Mas'ud said, Lo lam aish. If I was to only be able to live, awalam akun fi dunya, or if the only thing in the dunya was illa ashara, 10, and here ashara could mean 10 hours, 10 days, and he's talking about something that's adna. He's talking about the least. You could say, if he said 10, like Prophet mentioned about the one Mara Baina Musalli. Al-Mar Baina Musalli. The one who's going in front of the one who's praying. The Prophet said it would be better for him to wait 40 than to go in front of a person who's praying, meaning the person doesn't have something between him and the place of prostration. When you pray, you should have something between you and the distance that when you prostrate, that no one can walk in front of you. So to have on the other side of, you estimate where your head would be when you prostrate while you're standing, something should be that distance. You shouldn't just pray and there's a open space, and if you were to prostrate, people can walk from and to and back and forth. The Prophet prohibited that. He said, إِذَا صَلِّ أَحَدُكُمْ فَيُصَلِّ إِلَى سُطْرَةٍ. If any one of you pray, let them pray towards something that's sutra. What is sutra? Sutra is a guard, a protection. Meaning let him put something in front of him so that the person can walk on the other side of where he would prostrate and not right in front of where he prostrates. So the Prophet, in saying that, he said it will be better for the one who wants to walk in front of a person who has nothing between him and his place of prostration. It would be better for him to wait 40 than to walk in front of that person that doesn't have a sutra. Let him finish. It would be better to wait. Let him finish his 1 rak'ah, his 2, his 3, his whole salah, no matter how long it took, than to walk in front of him. Because the sin of walking in front of him is great when he doesn't have a sutra. Like the sin of the one who's praying is great if he doesn't have a sutra, as long as he's able to do that. If he's not able to have a sutra, he's not able to practice that, then the sin is off him. But the passer, if he can prevent it, the Prophet said he should wait 40. So the scholars, when they give the explanation, the hadith, they said 40 what? What did the Prophet mean? Did they mean 40 seconds, 40 minutes, 40 days, 40 nights, 40 years, to show no matter how long, don't cross. But in this narration, Allah ibn Mas'ud said if it was that he had to live, or there were only 10 days, but he didn't say days, he just said ashra. So what is he talking about? When he says ashra, is he talking about 10 seconds, 10 minutes, 10 days, 10 nights, 10 years, the same thing. You could take the least amount, 10 seconds, 10 minutes, like this to understand what he's saying. So he said if you were to have to live, well, there were only 10 left in the day and the night, he said that he would, if there was only in the dunya, ashra. So again, he said, if I was to have lived now, if I were to live a specific amount of time, that there was only 10 left in the dunya, 10 days, 10 nights. He said, La ahbabtu an akun andi imra'a. He said, I would love nothing more than to have with me a woman. Subhanallah Rabbil Alamin. If there was only this life I have right now, this small amount of time, but there was 10 left in this dunya, 10 nights, 10 days, 10 weeks, 10 months, 10 years, whichever you like, you could take the least to the most. He said, I would not love to have anything with me more than a woman. Subhanallah al-Azim. قال حدثنا أبو أسامة عن هشام ابن عروة عن أبيه قال, they both said, Hisham ibn Urwa an Abihi. It was Urwa ibn Zubayr. Both were companion, and his son companion, and Mada Hisham ibn Urwa and Urwa ibn Zubayr. Now, they both said, قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, that the Prophet, the Messenger of Allah, he said, تزوج النساء, marry women, لأنهن يأتيكن بالمال. He said, the Prophet ﷺ mentioned marry women, get married, because women, with marrying them, it increases you in wealth. The Sheikh Majdi Arafah from the Shuyukh, students of Imam al-Albani, Sheikh Nasser, he's commented on this Masaanaf of Imam ibn Abi Shayba. He's going to make a comment here. He says, Fi Zamal Yatina bin Mal. He said, during that time, it was clear what the Prophet is saying. When you marry, that increased you in wealth. Those women came with increasement of wealth. He said, but in our time, that the habna bil mal, they decrease you in wealth. Subhanallah. Allah musta'an. Allah musta'an. La hawla wa la quwwata billah. So that the Sheikh is making that statement, times change. It doesn't mean still that if you get married, it's not one of the ways that your risk can increase. The Prophet said it. And that's why many ulama, they mention one of the ways to increase your provision is to get married. It comes with that blessing. It comes with increasement of wealth for you. But because of the Allahumma musta'an state of affairs, fitna to dunya, the fitna of dunya, the fitna of technology, the heightened amount of envy, jealousy, and the lack of Allahumma musta'an, I have to just say it, the lack of iman, as iman is becoming more scarce in these times we live in, then instead of a lady, you marrying her, it being an issue that increases you, they may decrease you in wealth because they want. They demand man. They have to have. And sometimes these desires are not needs. They're just something of a desire because of the environment, because of the type of company, because of the ideas, because of all of these things that we're plagued with. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy. Ameen. And that's some cases, not all. Wallahu musta'an. The point is, this narration, it said that the Prophet ﷺ said, marry because it comes with increasement of wealth. Now, قال ابن أبي شيبة حدثنا وكيع ابن مصر عن قال حدثنا وكيع ابن مصر. Let me go back. قال ابن أبي شيبة حدثنا وكيع عن مسعر and on Ibrahim. Mis'ar an Ibrahim. Mis'ar gets it from Ibrahim. Muhammad ibn Muntashir. قال, he says, قال عمر توى في غنى الباء. توى في غنى الباء. Here, توى في غنى الباء means ما تو في غنى الباء. This narration, it could mean it's a difficult one here because I didn't get a chance to go look and see if this is as they say غريب المعنى. The meaning is not the normal meaning, but تو is when you voluntarily do something. Ghina, total ghina, the increasement, of having power or strength or like this. And here it said al-ba'a means the spending. So here it seems that what should be gathered from this narration is that part of having the ability in marriage, al-ba'a, is that you spend voluntarily. That you spend voluntarily. And what we mean by this is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He said in Surah Al-Nisa, الرجال قوامون على النساء, that men, Allah had made them over women. They have excelled naturally over women in the following: strength, the way that they are created, the way that they analyze and look at things, the way that they navigate and show care and affection, and their level of ability to be patient. And also Allah said their spending, بما فضل الله بعضهم على بعض وبما أنفقوا من أموالهم. So here, Sheikh Al-Imam Muhammad Salih al-Uthaymeen said to this point that they spend out of what they have. And others like Sheikh Mustafa Adawi, they said, Abdullah ibn Abbas mentioned here that the spending is two types: on what the women need, which is something you have to do, and then Tawwal Ghina. Tawwal Ghina is to spend something voluntarily. So here sometimes you spend, it's not a need, but we will say it's a desire that they want something, they don't need it, or something they like, or something to make them happy. It's outside of the part of spending, which is an obligation. It's beyond that. So it seems that this is the meaning that should be gotten, wallahu a'lam, from this Torah Ghina al-Ba'a, that part of the ability, part of the means is that you have a means you spend voluntarily on the woman, and this is from the statement of Umar radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. حدثنا معاذ عن ابن جريج عن إبراهيم بن ميسرة عن طاووس إبراهيم ابن ميسرة عن طاووس ابن قيسان قال, he said, Tawus, he said, قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, that the Messenger of Allah صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم لم نرى المتحابين لا نرى متحابا لا نرى متحاب لم نرى متحابين مثل النكاح. So this statement, لا نرى, I don't see, متحابين, something will make people love one another more, من النكاح, مثل النكاح, like the likes of what I've seen through marriage. This hadith, and when I was listening today, right away I said, hadith is da'if. And then when I went to listen again, the Sheikh himself, he said, hadith da'if. Sheikh Majdi Araf says the hadith da'if. Why did he say the hadith is da'if? Because if you listen, the narration is on the authority of Tawus ibn Qaysan. He said Tawus ibn Qaysan, he is Mada, from the students of Abdullah ibn Abbas. And he is a tabi. He's not a companion. So how can he say Qala Rasulullah? If you have any tabi narrated from the Prophet ﷺ, like Zuhri, it's a tabi. If Zuhri say Qala Rasulullah, or like Malik ibn Anas, he's a tabi. He say Qala Rasulullah, or like Abi Hanifa, if he says he's a tabi, Qala Rasulullah, then this means the narration is da'if. Because they didn't meet the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So this chain is da'if. Tawus said the Prophet sallallahu. He needs a companion. There's somebody between him and the Prophet. So this hadith is da'if. Yani saqata min al-isnad al-sahaba. The sahaba is not in the chain. He's been what we would call saqata. He's saqat. He's not mentioned. He's dropped from the chain. It's like, someone didn't mention him. He's in the chain. He has to be there. There's no way for Tawus to narrate on the Nabi Sallallahu except in Wasat al-Sahaba, except through a companion. And it has to be a companion that Tawus met. It has to be a companion that Tawus is reported he took knowledge from. So if he narrates on the Prophet something, it's da'if. If he narrates from a companion that he met and it's clear he took knowledge from the companion, then it's sahih. And if he narrates from a companion that he met but he didn't take knowledge, it's not recorded that he took knowledge from that companion, then it's still da'if. So he has to narrate from a companion who was narrated and known that he met, and that it's also narrated and known that he took knowledge from. So the Shaykh said this hadith where he said that the Prophet ﷺ, said, I have not seen anything that will bring two people together and make them love one another. I have not seen a tool that will bring people and make them love one another more than nikah. The hadith is da'if. Now, the Prophet ﷺ said, Ala unabbiukum إذا فعلتم تحابين في الله. He says, should I not inform you of something? If you do it, you'll really love one another for the sake of Allah. And they said, Bala ya Rasulullah. Of course, please tell us. And he said, Ifshu salam. Spread the salams between yourselves. With meaning. Don't just say salam alaikum, but you don't like the person You wish bad for the person, stuck for the law. Muslims do that today, if they even give you salam. But the Prophet said, spread the wholesome greeting of salam, which is a dua, by the way, at the same time between yourself. وَطَعِمُوا ta'am. Feed people who are hungry when they need to be fed from amongst you. Someone comes, he didn't eat, share something to eat with that person. We always say breaking bread is one of the ways to really make ties and to strengthen friendships. Every type of celebration that we have, from Jumu'ah, from the Eid of Ramadan and the Eid of Hajj, from Arus al-Haflatul, Yani Arusa, the marriage party, and those different things. Yani when a baby is born, everything is centered around food. Food brings joy, food brings a bond. So the Prophet said, spreading the salams, feeding the one who needs to be fed, who's hungry, wasilatul arham, keeping family ties, wasallu wa nasul ni'am, and praying in the night while people sleep. Idkhulu jannata, yani ادخلوا الجنة يعني نعم ادخلوا الجنة يعني بالسلام. You will enter the Jannah with no harm and greetings from the angels. So this hadith shows you there are things that bring you together. Spreading the salams, feeding people, keeping family ties, yani praying in the night. These things increase the love between the Muslims. And here the narration that the Prophet ﷺ said, I have not seen anything that bring two together more in loving one another, bringing a bond between people more than marriage, then that narration is da'if, as the Sheikh mentioned, Hafidhullah Ta'ala, Sheikh Majdi Al-Arafat, who's alive, which this is the narration in the Masaanaf Ibn Abi Shayba. Now, قال حدثنا عبد الله. So Ibn Abi Shayba narrates Abdullah, yani Abdullah ibn Mubarak. قال حدثنا إسرائيل عبيد الله. إسرائيل يعني ابن عبيد الله. عن أبي إسحاق عن عبد الرحمن ibn Yazid. He said, "Lo lam yabqa min ad-dahri." He said, if there was nothing left of time, illa laylan, except one night, la ahbabtu an akun ma'i fi tilka al-layla imra'atan, a lady. So this kind of sheds light on when Mu'adh said Ashura, because here, in this narration, the person says, if there was no time left except one night. So you always, if you take in this case, the least amount of time, it kind of shows you the value that they're placing on a woman. As opposed to if a person said 10 years, that's a lot of time, you could see a value. If a person said, 10 weeks, but normally when you have a little bit of time, the thing that you want the most is the most important, one of the most important. So, Allahu A'lam, you see that in this narration. Allahu Ta'ala A'lam. We'll take one more narration, inshallah ta'ala, for tonight. قال حدثنا وقيع عن إسماعيل ابن أبي خال عن قيس بن عبد الله رضي الله تعالى عنه عبد الله ibn Umar. So كنا مع النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. He said, I was with the Prophet. ونحن الشباب, and we were young, youthful. So كنا رسول الله. So the Prophet said to us, هذا نستحسي قال لا. He said, is this some way that you conduct yourself? Is this something you forgot about? This is all you have to do is just, stand around youthful people. And then the Prophet Rakasa Lana and Yanka and Mara'ah. Then he gave us the permission to marry a lady. Yani ila ajal, for a certain amount of time. The Prophet allowed them. The Prophet allowed them to marry a lady. Then the Prophet رخص لهم أن ينقى المرأة للثوب لأجل. Then he allowed them to marry a lady for an extended period of time with regards to giving a piece of clothing. And then Abdullah ibn Umar quoted the ayah when the Prophet allowed that. He said, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, quoting the ayah. لا تحرموا طيبات ما أحل الله لك. Do not, all you who believe, do not make prohibited upon yourselves that which Allah has made lawful for you from the good things. So this narration is where we'll end. Where the Prophet came upon a group of young people. Abdullah ibn Umar was there. Abdullah ibn, in fact, now, Qais. Now, Qais, now Abdullah. Now, so this narration of Abdullah ibn Mada Umaru saying that the Prophet came actually it's not Abdullah ibn Umar, the narration is Qais and Abdullah Mada, I have to check, it's either Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. If Qais is in the chain, it's not, I don't think it's Abdullah ibn Umar. I'm going to go back and check. Al-Kul Hal, the narration, Qais and Qais and Abdullah. Normally, if it's Abdullah, then it's Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. If it's Abdullah ibn Abbas, then Abdullah ibn Abbas. We'll mention his name. Normally, if it's on Abdullah, it's Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. If a Qais is in the chain. And if it's Abdullah ibn Umar, normally it's Abdullah ibn Umar, Abdullah ibn Umar, or like this. Shahid min hada, what's the point from this last narration? That they were standing around a group of youthful men, young men. The Prophet already apparently has been talking about the importance of marriage. It's wajib, you're young, and we're talking about protecting yourself from looking at women, protecting yourself from falling into zina. This is a real live issue. And remember, the society is not that vibrant, but a lot to do. So this is the main thing that someone has on their mind, because they don't have other things to take off the mind of a person, the male, thinking about the female. So for Salam said, is this all you guys have to do? Like, you have all of this energy, you're youthful, like, And so they said no. And so the Prophet told them, with regards to their means, told that group of people, I'll allow you, if you are trying to get married, it's that difficult for you to marry for that which is as less as a garment that you give to the lady if she accepts for an extended amount of time. And many scholars said this was in the beginning of Islam. Similarly, when the Prophet would allow the Muslim to marry muta for an extended amount of time, or the case where the Prophet would allow to marry from the people of the book, the Muslim, because the Muslims' ladies were scarce. They hadn't come into the deen in large numbers. There were more men than women. So these were some of the reasons that these type of marriages were allowed. Muta, temporary marriage, marrying the people of the book, because there are more Muslim men than Muslim women. And likewise, in this case, the means are not as plentiful. You don't have something to even give the lady, even if you could feed her with your food. What are you going to give her? So the Prophet allowed, in this case, to give her even some clothing, and for the certain amount of time. And this, inshallah ta'ala, is because of the importance of marriage, the importance of the institution, what it provides for the nafs, for the person's desires, from the eyes to the private itself, what it allows a person of being increased in provision, what it does for happiness and removing stress and anxiety, what it does for both parties. As Allah said, Hunna libasu lakum wa antum libasu lahunna. They are covering for you, and you are covering for them. Wallahu musta'an. هذا وصلى بك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا هو أستغفره وأتوب إليه وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. إن شاء الله تبارك وتعالى إلى هنا. We'll stop here. So, صلى على نبينا محمد.